Okay, we should be getting down to the last couple of minutes here. Looks like we have everyone in the room, which is super impressive. And yeah, I'm so for this auction, I can wonder if I can try to quickly show you my team. So if you look at my team right now, got some good options at first base. I've got a pretty deep middle infield, not necessarily a star-filled middle infield, but it's pretty good. Candelario at third base is a decent option, but could do better. Very happy at catcher. My outfield, Soto and Tatis is a good start. I'm going to need some depth there and probably at least one other reasonable name. And I don't have a ton of pitching, especially if you look at the fact that Bradish might be out a while. Bayo's not a guy I can super rely on. So that's where I'm going to be doing some work. Outfield and pitching, definitely both areas that I will be doing some work in this auction. And yeah, hopefully we're going to get going any second here. Well, I guess we got another minute or so. Oh, I'm being told to do the honors. Okay. So get started here. Oh, I cannot start yet. So, getting ready to get started here. We had to wait until our official draft start time, which was 3:30 p.m. Pacific time. That should happen any second now, maybe eventually. Maybe, perhaps. There we go. Now I can hit start. All right. So we are live now. First nomination, Vlad Guerrero Jr. As I mentioned at the beginning, I feel pretty good about where I am at first base. Vlad is not a major target for me. I think he's an easily valuable player, especially given there aren't a ton of other options at first base in this league. Pete Alonso's out there, Nathaniel Lowe, Josh Bell, Ryan Mountcastle, sort of the next tier down. And so I expect them. I would expect a pretty high price for Vlad. We'll have to just sort of see how it goes. My hope is that this is going to help draw some money out, that some teams who need bats will go after Vlad instead of the bats that I want. Since, like I said, I'm probably going to roll with what I have at first base, but we'll see. Got 18 people watching right now. Thank you to those of you who are out there. For those who don't know, I'm Chad Young. I'm the host of the Keep or Cut podcast on the Pitcher List Podcast Network. We talk about keeper leagues, Ottoneu leagues, anything that's sort of in between redraft and dynasty. And we got a new episode coming out Monday. My co-host Pete will be recording tomorrow, but figured I'd stop by today, do something a little extra, share this, see if I can actually talk through this entire thing to myself. But okay, so Mike Trout, I said I needed outfield help. Trout's on that list of outfielders who would help my team. I'm not sure he's where I want to spend my money. I worry a little bit about his health. I think I might be better off going with someone a little bit cheaper and being able to get a little bit more depth. But we'll see, because he's still Mike Trout. And so at some point, I'm going to jump into the bidding here if it doesn't push up too high, because he should be pretty highly sought after. I'm a little surprised. It looks like he's going to go for more than Vlad. I would have thought Vlad would go for more, but it's hard to argue. Again, outfield, we've got Trout, Yelich, then Springer, Eloy Jimenez, Tyler O'Neill, Buxton, Canna, Fraley, Stanton. Again, it's another spot where it just gets thin pretty fast. And so if there's more interest in outfield, and I will say across all of my leagues this year, Ottoneu and otherwise, um, outfield prices have just been pushed up. It's been really hard to get good outfield talent at reasonable prices. And so you got to be prepared to pay for it. I'm making the decision that Trout's not where I'm going to pay for it, but that could come back to bite me. I'm gonna have some interesting decisions to make too, because I probably can't buy all of the pitching and all of the outfield I want. So I don't know. We'll see how these things go. Yeah, 54 for Trout is higher than I anticipated. It was obviously higher than I was willing to go, but definitely higher than I anticipated. I thought he'd be more 40s. Manny Machado, as I said, I got Jeimer Candelario at third base. I like him. I feel pretty good about him as a starter, but I don't want to be super reliant on him. I'm not sure that the way I want to not rely on him is to spend a ton on Machado. But Machado's stalling out at under $20. If that continues, I will end up bidding on Machado. Wasn't really part of my plan, but we're getting to a point here where maybe you just take a shot at him and make a trade to get an outfielder or something like that if I need to. But he's pushing up now more like he should. This still is at a point where it's a pretty good price, but it's moving away from I have to bid on him price. But it's a price that whoever wins him will be very happy unless this slow climb that he's on continues for a long time. Yeah, $31, now $32 on Machado is a totally fine price. I think I expected him to go for around 35. It looks like he's going to end up pretty close to there in the end. Yeah. And I'm going to have to nominate kind of soon. A couple more guys before me. They'll be interesting. I usually at this point would be nominating guys to get out of the way, but I feel a little bit like I want to nominate people I want now and try to get things moving for my team. Yamamoto is an interesting one. Like I said, I need pitching. I don't have a really good sense of how this league is going to value Yamamoto. We do have two managers who live in Japan, so I don't know if that makes them higher on him or lower on him than other leagues, but I would like to add sort of an ace level pitcher, and there aren't a lot of them available. If it's not him, it's Nola, and then it goes down to guys like Bieber and Rodon, who might be aces, but there's a lot of questions around them. So there's still a lot of teams into the bidding on Yamamoto, which suggests that we're not real close to him being done here. I don't know how much higher I'll go. It's probably about where I tap out. So, yeah, I went up to 35 on him. It's not a huge surprise that he's going past that. I think there's obviously a real chance that Yamamoto is one of the best pitchers in baseball, but there's also a possibility that he's not. I mean, I think it's just a more reasonable bet to assume he's like a top 10, 15, maybe top 20 pitcher. There's downside, anytime a guy's coming to a new league, a new country, new everything, there's a lot of risk there. The upside is huge. It'll be interesting to see what the price is for Yamamoto compared to, I guess, really to Nola. He's really the only other ace level pitcher out there. So that's sort of the comparison to make here. I highly doubt Nola goes to this price, but if there's enough teams out there that are needing pitching, thought they could have a shot at Yamamoto and didn't win it, maybe Nola will push up higher. We'll find out. This is not making me feel great about my chances to get other players I need, though. There's obviously a lot of money hanging out around here. The team's still in on this. Dave Stewart's balls. I mean, this is it. He needs 17 players, only has $109. If he wins this, he's basically done and just playing the long game the rest of the way. The Chandelorian, the other team bidding here, has 22 spots to fill, but $236 in cap. So he can bully the room for quite a while if he wants to. No one else over 137 at this point. I'm down at 120. It's not a terrible spot to be, especially given I only have 13 spots to fill. But it doesn't quite put me in a position to sort of push around a $50 player, which is not really what I want to do here anyways. Let's see who comes up next. Pete Alonso, as I mentioned, I'm not really targeting first base. I think if I were targeting first base in this league, I would have gone for Alonso, I think, over Vlad because I expect the price to be lower. But we will see, I guess. Yeah, only up 18. Jeez. I'm sort of stunned that this is what we're looking at for him. There we go. This price makes more sense for Alonso. So he is, I mean, the price on Alonso has moved very slowly. The bidding in this league, this auction anyways, has sort of followed a pretty steady pattern of just being very, very slow to get started and then moving a lot quicker. But yeah, we'll see how far Alonso goes. Vlad went off the board first at $41. Alonso is pushing very close to that. So this may be an example of where the order in which players are nominated really matters, because I would not have expected Alonso to go more for a higher price than Vlad, but they were really the only two good options at first base. Like I said, after this, the first base market is Nathaniel Lowe, Josh Bell, Ryan Mountcastle, Rizzo, Abreu, Meneses, France, Noda, Belt. You've got JD Martinez if you want a util instead of a first base bat, but it was just those two. I suspect if Alonso had gone first and Vlad second, we would have seen these prices flipped. But maybe people just really, really love Pete Alonso. Oh, I know I'm supposed to nominate. So this is where, do I want to nominate someone I think I might want to go after, or do I want to pull some more money out? I think I'm going to try to pull some more money out by starting with Trey Turner here. As I showed at the beginning when I showed my roster, my middle infield, Right now, it looks like I'm likely to start Spencer Steer, Matt McClain, and Itzhak Paredes as my middle infield with Brendan Donovan and Ezekiel Tovar backing them up. It's not a ton of depth. There are some question marks there. It's just not where I think I am going to choose to spend my money on this team right now. So hopefully Turner will help to pull some people down and limit the amount of money that's available for some of the guys I want. Because this is right now, it's interesting when you look at the first 5 guys to go here. Vlad at 41 isn't bad. Machado at 33, not bad, but $54 Trout, $53 Yamamoto. Wow, $32 for Turner. The Pete Alonso price was crazy, but that is a great value on Turner, I think. Sort of wish I don't know. That's a case where I maybe could have gotten in on him and moved Steer out of middle infield and into an outfield spot. I was too busy talking to you guys instead of paying attention, but that's a pretty good price there. Which now has me wondering if I should be going after Lindor? Because I could do the same thing here. I could take Lindor, put him at short, and move Steer to the outfield or move Paredes to third base. I think, Lindor, boy, he probably should be going for like 25 to 30 at least. A little surprised, like I said, that Turner was only 32. It looks like Lindor might push up right around that same level, and so I'm probably going to stay out on Lindor and continue to focus on the plan I had. But this is an interesting one. This is, again, shortstop, you had Turner and Lindor at the top, but there's still guys. There's Xander Bogaerts, there's Carlos Correa. Then it goes down to like CJ Abrams, Jeremy Pena. It gets a little weak after that, but interesting. It does not seem like there's been a lot of need to spend on middle infield, at least not yet. George Springer, I do need outfield. And so I won't ignore Springer because he's an outfielder and I need outfielders. But I'm not a Springer fan. So I'm probably not going to get in on him here. He really, realistically, is he a $15 to $20 outfielder? Yes. Given how hard it is to come by outfield, does that mean he should go for 25 to 30? Maybe. If I'm going to overspend on outfield, and I think I'm going to end up overspending on outfield, this is not the guy I want to do it on. The challenge might be, I don't know if there's anyone I want to do it on, but this is not a draft room where I'm going to walk away with money because there's guys left I'm still pretty excited about, I think. I do think it's worth noting, though, you still got, I've got $120 left. There's still two teams with more money than me, and then another 1, 2, 3, 4 that are very close. Nolan Arenado, like I said, I do want some help at third base. I don't think I'm going to spend on Arenado. He is, I don't know if he stalls out at $10, $12. I would go for that. He's a real good value here, but he's, again, a little bit like Springer. It's not so much that this price is like a bad price. It's just not a guy I'm super excited about. I think people were a little down on him at the start of the offseason, and it's sort of come full circle, and people are back like, oh yeah, he's Nolan Arenado. There aren't a lot of options at third base. So let's see. Yeah, he's up to 20. Yeah, looking at the top sort of free agents on my board left, my guess is fairly soon we're going to get a couple of nominations on players that I've got to be aggressive on if I'm going to land if I'm going to have a successful draft. And I'm probably going to end up taking on some risks I wouldn't normally take on, but and that this is the start of it. Is I probably am going to work pretty hard to get Nola. I don't really think he's a $40 guy, so I'm hoping it doesn't get there. If it does, I'll have a decision to make, and that decision will basically be: would I rather have him, or would I rather spend hard on pitchers I like that are less expensive but have pretty good upside? But in the meantime, so this is interesting. So Dave Stewart's balls, who spent a lot on pitching already, and the Chandelorian, who was trying to spend a lot of money, are both in on this. There's teams involved in this bidding who have a lot of money, which often means that the bidding gets pretty high. We're going to take our time here. Let's see what happens. Nola is not really my most favorite target here, but he does fill a need for me. Well, like I said, I don't think he's a $40 pitcher. I was going to have to make a decision if he got up to 40. I would have to make a $40 bid right now, and I'm not going to. I'm going to let him go at 39. I'm fine with that. I've got, like I said, still have other targets, still confident that I've got places to use my funds to improve my team. Maybe. Negative EV, the team that's nominating now is Niv Shah, the creator of Ottoneu. So he puts up Xander Bogaerts. Xander's an interesting one because he is shortstop only. I think he plays up a little bit in this format because he has high on base. There's a 4x4 league, by the way, but he is apparently going to be their second baseman. So, a week into the season, he'll be second base / shortstop, which is a nice little bump to his value. It's not a huge shift, but it's also not nothing. And this is another guy where, in theory, I could pick him up and give myself some flexibility with Steer and Paredes and Donovan to move them around into other spots. So I was watching him. I think we've moved beyond where I think he's a good use of my funds, though. There's still a lot of money out there. Oh, people are commenting in the stream. I didn't even realize that. Someone asked in the stream, how much do closers usually go for? In this format, not a ton, because 4x4 doesn't reward saves or holds. So, there's no question, like, really good elite relievers, regardless of whether they're closers or not, who throw a lot of innings, get a lot of strikeouts, are valuable. But you rarely see them go for double digits. Sometimes you do, not very many of them. And I tend to stick to, like, very, very cheap bullpens. And sorry, I didn't notice there were questions coming in the chat. I'll pay attention to that. So, yeah. Correa, I think he's kind of undervalued. I think if I was more inclined to bid on middle infield, I'd probably be pushing him up. But well, now he's up to $20. That's probably good enough. I think because of the injuries, because of the weird contract situation last year, people have sort of forgotten just how good he's capable of being. And, it's not a guarantee he's going to be great, but he's certainly capable of it. So we are 24 players into this. I have not yet bought anyone. Now we get to Christian Yelich. I said I needed outfield. I will be bidding on Yelich. We'll see how high people push me. But especially when I'm streaming or something like that, I tend to stay out of the bidding at the beginning. Partially, I like to see who's involved. Partially, I just like to get my stuff in order. But it's about time to jump in. The nice thing with Yelich is he will get on base at a high rate. He should score a bunch of runs, even if he doesn't hit a ton of homers. He should be pretty valuable in this format. He had a bounce back last year, but it was a bounce back to sort of the old good but not great Marlins version of him rather than the MVP version of him. I'm not expecting him to go beyond that. I suppose it's possible that beyond that exists, but I don't think he has that in him anymore. But if he can repeat what he did last year, this will work. Oh, a late bid. I thought he was locked in, but I guess not. And yeah, the Chandelorian, if he wants to keep bidding, I mean, has the money to do as he pleases still. So I don't know just how far he'll continue to push me, but I'm going to stop at 36. We're going to keep going. Okay. So I was hoping to be closer to 30 on Yelich than 36, but super not concerned about that. All right, now next guy coming up here is Shane Bieber. I kind of think Bieber is going to have a bounce back season. He apparently was a drive line. His velocity was up in some bullpen sessions. Now, there's a lot we don't know. Like his velocity being up, throwing 15 pitches all out is not the same as his velocity being up, throwing even 40 or 50 pitches, even if he's not ramped up to, 80, 90, 100 like he would be in a start. But I'm pretty high on Bieber as of this moment in time. So, oops, I tried to bid there, but I bid too close. One of the nice things Ottoneu does, if you hit the +1 immediately after somebody else does, or the +2 or the +5, it cancels your bid. So you don't accidentally have someone like +5 when you're trying to +1. But we are going to get in on Bieber, but I don't think I'm going to go a whole lot further. There are some other pitchers and bats I'd still like to be in on. I really thought I could get Bieber for around 20. I'm a little surprised he went up this high, but I'm going to let him go. Turn my attention to some others. Darvish. I just took Darvish in a dynasty league, which is a little weird because he's old and I'm not a huge Darvish fan. My co-host on Keeper Cut, Pete and I are co-managing a dynasty team in a league started by Matt Heckman. That Darvish kept slipping, and we needed pitching, and we're intending to build a team that can win now. And so it was sort of like, all right, well, the fact that he's old doesn't really matter, and we'll see how this goes. But he's not a guy I'm a huge fan of, and so I don't intend to bid too much on him. Which, yeah. 13's actually, that's not a bad price on Darvish. Maybe I should have been in on him at that price, but I don't mind letting him go. Well, I'm going to have to nominate again soon. I got to think about who I'm going to put up. So I mentioned before that Lowe is basically the third best first baseman out there. So I'm really interested to see where he goes. Not again because I think he's like a star, but you know, if you need first base, where you're very quickly running out of options. And this is what I'm talking about. Like there just aren't a lot of choices left if you don't if you think you need a first baseman or a util bat and you don't get Lowe. At first base, you're talking about Bell or Mountcastle. At util, those two, or like Muncy, Eloy Jimenez, Matt Chapman, JD Martinez. It gets thin. So I think that's a lot for Lowe, but I don't know what you're supposed to do. Ketel Marte, definitely the best middle infielder left at this point. CJ Abrams at shortstop, Jeremy Payne at shortstop, Ryan McMahon, Justin Turner, Bryson Stott. You know, those are the other names that are out there. I don't think this is Marte's like best format necessarily, but he is still a good like $20 value probably. So I expect he'll go for that or more. Yeah, the bidding's pushing up pretty quick, which is, like I said, he's also like, if you need middle infield help, you're shopping in the bargain basement for the rest of the time. All right. Oh, I have to nominate. I think I'm going to nominate a catcher on the basis that I know I don't need a catcher. Not very exciting, but that is okay. And I think for what it's worth, Smith is, I don't know, a top 3 catcher or something like that in this format. I think he should be going for plenty of money. So we'll see if that's what happens, but it's part of my hope right here is that he'll eat up some cash that's out there. Yeah, this is what I was looking for here is nominate Smith. I'm happy with my catchers. Let's see what happens. And he's eating up some cash. So got a question on the stream. How many prospects do you typically roster? That's a good question. And it varies pretty heavily by what I'm trying to do with the team. And this team, I finished 7th last year, and so I'm not eligible for the Ottoneu Prestige League. For those of you who don't know, the Ottoneu Prestige League is a competition where you enter any team that finished in the top half of your league can be entered into a 240 team best ball competition. You're basically managing your roster for 2 competitions at the same time, your regular league and OPL. I am not entering OPL with this team. When I enter OPL, I usually don't carry very many prospects because they can't score points. In a best ball format, prospects can really hurt you. In this case, it's a good question. I've got, let's see, I think I kept 3 prospects or 4 prospects. I have Wyatt Langford. I have Emmanuel Rodriguez. I have Chase DeLauder. I have Drew Gilbert. Those are the 4 prospects I kept. I would like to maybe add one more. I don't think I'm going to do much more than that. I don't usually like to have more than like 4 or 5 prospects, and I want them there either to be guys who I think I can trade for real production short term, or who are going to be up to help me out short term. And so that's probably what I'll be looking at in this auction is 1, maybe 2 guys at that. If I end up late in the auction with a bunch of spots open that I need to fill and nobody else exciting to fill them, then I'll end up with more prospects. But 3, 4, 5, something like that, but not a whole ton, not a whole lot. Joey Gallo at $4. I don't even know if he's going to make Washington. There's some upside there, so I totally get it. Stanton, sort of in a similar boat. I'm watching the bidding on him though, because like I said, I do need outfield, and it just seems like Stanton feels like a guy who, like, at some point is going to have a healthy season or a healthy half season even, and we're going to be like, oh right, that guy can crush the ball. I don't know if I want to do it now though. I think I'm going to let people take him. Oh, I thought that was it, but no, we're still going on Stanton here. And in the comments on the stream, Joe Katz mentioning this is the first Joey Gallo I've seen nominated live or in a mock draft. I think that might be right. I don't know that I've seen him anywhere either. Yeah. All right. Stanton, $13. We'll see where it goes from here. So we wait to see, will the Disgusting Brothers nominate someone? There we go. Salvador Perez. Let's draw out some more money at catcher. Perez is, I mean, both a catcher, which I don't need, and I'm just not a huge fan of Salvador Perez. He has obviously good power. Like, I'm not going to pretend he can't hit at all or something like that. But he's not gonna help you in OBP, and he's getting up there in age. I'm just even if I needed catcher, this isn't where I'd be spending. So the Ottoneu Slack getting a comment about, I'm gonna end up, how do I get out of here without having $50 left on the table? I am highly confident I will not leave with $50 in my pocket. There's still a handful of guys I'm really interested in. Bryant, I just can't believe he doesn't at least produce at home if he's healthy. Um, and he'd been having back issues, but that wasn't the issue last year, and so maybe that's a good sign. So I'll get in on the bidding here. I like Bryant in the single digits, not in double. The advantage with Bryant is if he is hurt, you can just cut him and get that $5 back right away, and maybe the other 5 soon. But I don't know. Buxton, a little bit like Bryant, right? It's like if he could just stay healthy, I think the upside is higher with Buxton than it is with Bryant. And I'm a little bit concerned about outfield eligibility with him. I think he will get it, but I don't think it's a guarantee. But I do like I said, I think the upside is higher on him than it is on Bryant, which makes him more interesting. And given the outfield prices in this league, worth something. I guess 13 is what I think he's worth. We'll see if if I have to push him any further. I've been pretty down on Buxton. I'm all of my outfield prices have proven to be. Oh wow, 14. Oh, I'm out on him then. All my outfield prices have proven to be too low. I've just been in all of my auctions. Outfielders are going for way more than I anticipated, and so I'm just I've just learned to accept that. And so guys like Buxton, who I was like, yeah, single digits. Now it's like, oh no, I push into double digits for them. Um, we'll see how this comes together. So we wait to see who else is getting nominated. JT Real Muto, another catcher coming off the board. Another guy who I think just age might be catching up with him. He's still good. Just anytime a catcher's over 30, I get that they're good until they're not. And then when they're not, they might be really not. So, we'll see. All right. Max Scherzer. I am just sort of out on Scherzer this year. I probably shouldn't be, but between the health issues and sort of declining production, I don't know. He's not where I want to take my bets with my starting pitching. The other thing, by the way, as I mentioned, someone asked before about relievers or closers. I only have one reliever on my roster right now. I may not leave the auction with more than 2 or 3. I think that's an okay place for me to be. Logan Allen. I'm a big fan of Logan Allen. He was really, really good before he went on the IL, came off the IL and struggled. And I think there's a lot of upside there. But there's a lot of other pitchers with upside that I'm interested in too. And so I'm out. I'm going to let them go. I really like he's been going for way less than that. I thought I was going to get him for $3-4 this league. It is worth noting this is the original Ottoneu League that was founded forever ago by a group of Cleveland fans. So Allen might be getting pushed up by the reality of this league being what it is. So Max Muncy. Again, I do need some depth at third base. There are 2 third basemen who have not yet been nominated that I'm very interested in. I think Brian Hayes may be ready for a big year. And I like Alec Boehm just as a stable player. But Muncy, I feel like Muncy is better than people realize still. Like he can still hit for a lot of power. Yeah, we'll let him go at this price, though. All right. I think there's still 2, 3, 4, 4, 5 guys that I really think I'll end up spending on. Outfield's going to be interesting. At the top of my outfield's going to be really good. I'm going to be super happy with Soto, Tatis, Yelich at the top. I just need to find the right depth. And so I think I can figure that out. Josh Hader. So this is the question. What do those top closers go for? Well, this is about as good a closer as there is. He's great for this format because he does everything well. But in my opinion, people tend to spend too much money on relievers like this based on overall fantasy reputation rather than what they're actually worth in this format. Just as an example, his value in the Ottoneu surplus calculator created by Justin Vibber is $8, $10 after inflation, so about this price. But like that isn't a value on him. That's just sort of all he's worth. So now Rodon said, I need pitching. And Rodon's looked good in the spring. I really like the talent. We're going to get into an interesting. We're going to find out here if I made a mistake passing on Bieber to go after Rodon, I guess, is what I would say. As of right now, price is still moving up pretty quick. I got involved in the bidding on this one pretty early. I'm going to back off for a minute and just see where it goes. Still a couple of teams involved, though. West Coast Wellness, what's he doing? He's got money left. Bieber went for 22, so I suppose I should have pushed on him, but Rodon, I'm very happy with that. That's totally fine. Now I need to update my spreadsheets and figure out what does that do for my other values. Meantime, I'll throw Wilson Contreras out there since I don't need a catcher. Go add Rodon to my spreadsheet. I'm feeling pretty good about that one. I as long as Rodon's healthy, Pablo Lopez, Joe Musgrove, Carlos Rodon, Gavin Williams, Brian Bayo is a rotation I can start with even while Bradish is out. Hopefully Bradish is only out a little while. If he's like really hurt, Tommy John coming up or something like that, then that's going to be a challenge for me. And I'm still going to need some innings somewhere. And so I can't be done bidding on pitching yet. Not even close to yet. Bryce Miller, I cut. I'm trying to remember. Did I cut him at 11? Yeah, I cut him at 11. But I like Bryce Miller. And it looks like may have made a mistake cutting him at 11. Even if I win him at this, $9 bid, which it doesn't look like is what's going to happen. Cutting a guy. Let's see. To me, if you cut a guy in the hopes that you're going to get him back cheaper, which was not really what I did with Miller for what it's worth. I cut him just thinking I didn't want him at 11, and the way the auctions played out, now I think I do. But I'll let him go at 12. But even if you are cutting a guy thinking like, oh, I hope to get him back cheaper, if you only save a couple bucks, that's probably something you should be concerned about, whether it was the right decision, because it's a lot of risk to take on for a pretty small benefit. But that's fine. Looking at the pitching market right now, the sort of biggest names out there that aren't injured, because you've got Sandy Alcantara, Clayton Kershaw, Brandon Woodruff, Shane McClanahan. You got a all-star rotation of injured pitchers that are up for grabs at some point. And spending on them may be something I do at some point. McClanahan in particular is definitely interesting to me. But the guys, in terms of people who are going to actually throw innings this year, Shota Managa, Chris Sale are probably the two biggest, best names out there. I know there's some folks who like Giolito or Verlander. I probably should be bidding on Verlander. The fact that he's already hurt is a little concerning, but we obviously know he's capable of bouncing back. He's done it before. So I will get in on the bidding on Verlander. This is more than I would have. Like I said, you could tell even before when I started talking about that, I was sort of tepid on bidding on Verlander, but yeah. So Jung-Hoo Lee, this is a guy I was sort of hoping would slip to late in the draft. I'm not a huge fan, but I think he will put up a good on-base percentage, and I do need some outfield depth. I think he's probably a $4 or $5 guy. I just don't think he'll hit for enough power to be more than that. Based on what I've looked at from the stats, things I've read, he seems like Ha-Seong Kim with less power, which is not a bad baseball player, especially if he's a good defensive outfielder, but it's not super exciting for this. Here comes Imanaga. Another guy, it's really hard to know with a guy like Imanaga, like, what are people going to value him at? What do people think he is? Because we just have no idea. I think he's worth more than this. So I will bid him up a little bit at least. But think I'm gonna last second get a bid in there. I was really torn. Yeah, forget it. I had Imanaga as a guy that I was willing to go up to 19 for, given the state of the pitching market. I thought, okay, 20 makes sense, but I think there's enough. Just throw some names out there of guys I'm interested in. I mentioned Sale before, but Trevor Rogers, Cutter Crawford, Drew Thorpe, who I think will pitch this year, Griffin Canning, Yusei Kikuchi, Paddock, Javier. Like, there's a bunch of guys out there that I'm sort of intrigued by, and I'd rather go get the depth right now. So we'll see if that plays out. But now, again, I still do need outfield help. Eloy, another guy, it's like, if he's healthy, I still believe he can hit if he's healthy. How healthy he's going to be. I also think there's real risk with him that the upside is limited by the fact that I don't think he has outfield eligibility beyond this year. There's enough other options in the outfield and enough reason to keep him out of the outfield that he may be util only next year. And if he's util only, it pretty significantly limits his value. But that doesn't matter for this season. And I'm playing for this season for now. It just does make a difference in terms of, with a guy like Eloy, when you're bidding at $15, $16, $17 on him, part of the value here is we know that he was going to be a $40 bat, right? That's what he looked like he was headed towards. That I think is sort of off the table if he can't keep outfield eligibility. It's probably off the table anyways, but it's even more off the table if he can't be an outfielder long term. And so it changes the risk reward trade-off because he's probably not a keeper, even if he has a good season. But I like that. Add him to my roster. And I'm now looking at an outfield of Soto, Tatis, Yelich, Eloy, Kepler, Benson, and Wallner. It's not enough players, but it's a strong set of players. I like that outfield. I feel pretty good about that outfield now. Tyler O'Neill, I was sort of down on him even when he was good, and so I'm not super inclined to get back into the Tyler O'Neill business now. But I don't think this is a bad price on him. Well, that was before the last two people bid. I still don't think it's a bad price on him. I get what the upside is. You hope that the change of scenery. The reality is, given some of the things we've heard out of St. Louis the last couple of years, like getting out of there may be a good thing for him. So, yeah, that could work, but not the guy I'm going to go after. There's a few guys out there in outfield still. Lamont Wade, Mark Hanna, Jake Fraley, who are good on base percentage plays at the very least, which is pretty useful in this format. So, yeah, Luke Raley. I think I cut Raley in this league, and I just go back and forth. Like, some days he's like a guy I really want to target in drafts, and some days I'm like, he was so bad down the stretch. Yeah, I cut him at $3. I'm fine with somebody else. Like, I've said in the past in articles and stuff that like when you cut a guy and he ends up going for more at auction, um, sometimes that means like, oh, you should have traded him, but like nobody was trading for him. There was no interest in him in this offseason. Sometimes it means you could have kept him, but like I don't know that I really care that I've lost him now. And instead, somebody else ate up $4 instead of keeping him at $3. So be it. I have been on the record repeatedly this offseason that I'm pretty high on Ke'Bryan Hayes. I picked him up in a lot of places. I've made expensive trades to go get him. His thing in the past has always been that people always talk about like, oh, he needs to elevate the ball. He needs to elevate the ball. And like, then he would elevate the ball and not do any better. And people were like, oh, we thought just need to elevate the ball. And like, he needed to elevate the ball and pull the ball. He hasn't done that together. He's done one or the other, but not both. Last season, he did both. And there's some really, really good signs under the hood, in my opinion. And so, I mentioned before when I was like, I'm going to let Muncy go, that there were a couple of third basemen that I'd rather go after because I think there's more upside at a lower price. And Hayes is sort of the prime guy for that. And so, I think with Hayes and Candelario, I'll be in a pretty good spot at third base, especially given I have some flexibility with Paredes to move over if needed. So, yeah. Paredes moving over probably moving up one more middle infielder, and so I may look to do that at some point. There's a couple guys out there I still like. But now we're back to the pitchers I like, and I do have to figure out how I'm going to get the pitching depth I need and whether or not Chris Sale is going to be part of it. One thing that works in Sale's favor is that the Atlanta wanted him. Like, it's hard to argue with everything they've done. So I think I'm still in on Sale. Let's see what the prices look like. If I go after Sale here, he becomes sort of my last meaningful buy, which I think is fine. And then I'm down into like, how do I piece together the rest of this roster pretty cheap? I'm down to $30 to spend on 9 spots. But he's going up past where I'm comfortable. So I'm probably going to sit this out. I don't think I want to be down at like $13 in 8 spots. That's a little bit lower than I want to be at this point. And if he keeps going far enough, I'll be priced out anyways. So let's see. I could make a $22 bid in theory. So I could still go to 20 on Sale. I'm not going to, but I could afford to. See, up there's 20. See if people push me out. Really hope people push me out. Yeah, so this is it. I could theoretically make this $22 bid and have 8 spots and $8. I'm not going to. I would have felt a little bit better had someone else bid 22 and taken that choice off the table for me, but I still don't mind. So Clayton Kershaw, I mentioned that there's a lot of injured pitchers available. I've heard some pretty concerning things about him, and I tend to believe that, he's the kind of guy who like finds a way to come back and be productive, but I'll let him go for now. With him off the board though, now I have to figure out who I want to nominate, which is I wasn't really ready for that. Let's do this. I don't expect Ruiz to draw a ton out, but he should. He's a good player, and I think this is a good format for him. I don't know. I should have looked to see how people are doing in terms of their needs at catcher. But we're also starting to hit the part of the draft where I probably need to start nominating guys I want to win. Ruiz falls into a category where I wasn't going to target him, but like if nobody had bid and I got him for $1, I would have been thrilled. So I knew that wasn't likely to happen, but it was a logical place to start the bidding. If I go into the surplus calculator right now, the top players left, according to the surplus calculators, doesn't necessarily match my top players left. The top players left, according to the surplus calculator, Dalton Varsho at a $14 inflated value, Chris Bassett at a $14 inflated value as well, Matt Chapman at 13, Charlie Morton at 13, Jordan Hicks at 12, Lamont Wade Jr. at 12, Josh Bell at 10, Trevor Rogers at 10, Lance McCullers at 10, Marcus Stroman around 10. So we are starting to get a little thin. We're also getting a call for a 5-minute break, but West Coast Wellness needs to nominate. This does look like we are going to take a break kind of soon. When we do, I will probably step away at least for a minute or two. Conforto's fine. I just don't think Conforto's very good anymore. That's not a bad bet to take though. Like $2 for Conforto. If he doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. If it does, he could be pretty useful. So Lance Lynn, another guy who he's probably a decent enough end of the rotation kind of option, but I don't know. I'm not excited about him. There's other guys I like who have more upside, who I think are probably just better pitchers. So we'll wait and see. Verdugo, I'm lower on Verdugo than most. I don't think he's a particularly good player. Early in the offseason, he was acquired, and then the Yankees went and made the Soto trade, and Grisham came over in the Soto trade. And if you go compare both the numbers and the projections for Verdugo and Grisham, it's reasonably clear that Grisham starting in center field with Verdugo on the bench makes more sense than Verdugo being in the lineup. Doesn't mean that's how it's going to play out, but it would probably be the right thing to do. And I'm just, I'm not interested in bidding up a guy who I don't think belongs in his major league team's lineup. Yeah, it's just like I'm just not interested in a $10 Verdugo. Sandy Alcantara, among the guys who are out for the year, is not my favorite. I haven't always he throws a ton of innings. I don't think those innings are on a per inning basis likely to be as good as many others could be. And then you add in now the injury issues, and yes, I know guys come back from Tommy John and are fine all the time, but he's going to probably be on an innings limit next year. And then you got to worry about recurrences. And I just, he's just not the guy I want to stash and to stash somebody. All right. 2 more nominations, and then we're going to hit a break. Let's Let's see who those two nominations are. Raisel Iglesias. As I've said, I'm not a big relief pitcher spender, so Iglesias isn't a guy I'm going to target. I'm fine with him going to someone else for $5. And our last nomination before the break, Shane McClanahan. So this is the guy. If I'm going to stash someone, this is the guy I want to stash. The question becomes, how much do I want to pay to stash him? And I will say, like, I haven't really settled on what that number is. What I have settled on is it's not double digits. I think, I just don't think he is. It's not even about him. I don't think an injured pitcher that you're stashing for a full year for $10 this year, so you can pay him $12 next year, is really a good use of money when you know that he's going to come back a little rusty and it might take him some time to work his way back up and he may be on an innings limit and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's just not where I want to spend my cash. The biggest advantage to having now we're up to $12 McClanahan on your roster is that there's a decent chance that in June somebody will trade for him and give you something useful for him. But I just don't want to sit on that all off season. Or all season, I should say. So, yeah. Now, Overpaid Scrubs also still has $68 left to spend. So maybe this is just a case where, like, hey, the money exists. Why not? So, but let's take a quick break. We are taking a break from the auction. Oh, I realized I left that little banner up that said we were start at 3:30. That didn't need to stay up there. But I'm going to put a new little banner up there, let you know I will be back in just a few minutes. Okay, the auction's not quite back, but I'm back. I think. Hold on. Sorry, I was back, and then I realized that my door was still open, which means we run the risk of children running in here and yelling at us. So, best to actually close it. But we are just letting everyone know we're back, getting ready to get started again. Look at my roster at this point. I still do at some point need to fill out my bullpen. I have 4 open bullpen spots. I have 9 players I still have to add for $30. I need another bat. I think I've got some flexibility on whether that is a middle infielder or an outfielder, because I think Steer and or Donovan can be perfectly acceptable outfielders, but I need at least one more bat and probably 2. I need, probably a couple more starting pitchers. What do I have? I've got 6 at this point. And I have 6, and one of them is Bradish, who looks like he's gonna be out for a bit. So I need at least probably 3 more starting pitchers. If I get 3 more starting pitchers, 2 more bats, that's 5 of, and then I can sort of play it how it goes at that point. Charlie Morton, I just said I need 3 more starting pitchers. So you'd think I'd be bidding on him, but I am not. I'm just not a big. It's not even that he's not good. I just worry that Morton at this point is nearing the end, and I don't want to be the one left holding the bag, especially given some of the alternatives out there. He was good last year. His walk rate shot up, which is part of what concerns me. His home run per fly ball rate was way down, which helped him a lot, especially in a 4x4 format. I don't really think that home run per fly ball rate can stick, and really that if the walk rate continues to move that direction, it'll impact the strikeout rate, and everything will sort of fall apart with it. So, anyway, now among those position players I need, Wade is a really attractive option because he's a high on base guy. I think just poking around at what other outfielders are out there who I might be interested in, I think I'm going to let him go. Oh, yeah. Especially now that he's pushed up to the price he's pushed up to. Yeah, okay. I'm also now, I think I'm past the point in this draft where I'm going to be nominating people to eat up money. Like I'm looking at, who are my options to nominate right now? And like, I could try to nominate Brandon Woodruff and see if someone's going to eat money on him. I don't think that's what I want to do because I don't think I want to be stuck with Woodruff. I want to be stuck with him, but Alec Boehm pops up as on my watch list because, as I mentioned before, he's one of the third basemen I was looking at. He's no longer of interest to me. So this is a good example of how, values on players are dynamic. I would still take like a $1 or $2 Boehm. Had I lost out on Hayes, I probably would be bidding on Boehm up to $8, $9. If he had come out before Hayes, I probably would have gone to $6. But like now it's not the best use of my money. So I'm not going to. And so, yeah, I try to be flexible with my values. Joe is asking me any regrets at the break in the chat for the stream. I don't think I really do. I mean, would I rather have like a $33 Trey Turner at shortstop with Steer in the outfield, or have a $36 Yelich in the outfield with Steer at middle infield. I sort of think the way I have it is fine. Um, and that would be the one sort of big thing. I could maybe make a case that I should have gone after Bieber, but I'm happy with Rodon, who I ended up with. The $20 Eloy, is there someone I should have? I don't know. No, I don't think so. I don't think like there are guys I could have bought. There were good values out there, but no, I don't really look back at anything and think like, oh yeah, I really like this was a mistake. Um, you know, I couldn't have like. Would I rather have that Turner versus Eloy? Yes, but that's not a choice for me because if I had that, like I couldn't have that Turner instead of Eloy and had Rodon, and so no, I'm good with what I've got. JD Martinez just went off the board. He's probably worth more than he went for. Util only guy is just not that exciting, and it's not what I'm looking for right now. But Canna, one of the guys I was sort of like, oh well, if I can't have Wade, but he's also going a little more than I thought, and so I might move to one of the other guys who was a if I can't have Wade option. Canna, it's hard to tell because he was so bad with the Mets. Good on base percentage, but just didn't do anything else. And then was really, really strong with Milwaukee. Detroit, not a great place to hit. I think there's some guys who could push him for playing time. So I'm gonna stay away. Okay, right. I have to nominate someone. I think I'm gonna nominate a reliever. And I know I said like, oh, I don't really want to pay for relievers, but that's sort of why I'm going to nominate one here. If nobody wants to bid on a reliever that I nominate, then I'll take them for $1 and be very happy. And if somebody does want to bid on them, then I won't take them, and that'll be fine too. Yeah, $9 Helsley, like that. My first choice of what could have happened with Helsley there would have been I get him for $1. My second choice is like he goes for almost double digits to someone else. Let them spend their money. That's fine. Brian Abreu, same camp. If he's out there, let people spend their money on him. There's going to be a decent amount of money left on the table in this draft as I'm looking across these teams. I'm not going to have very much. It looks like West Coast Wellness won't have a ton left. Niv, negative EV won't. Last year's leftovers probably won't. But there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 teams with $60+ left, one with 90+. And I just don't know how they're going to spend that down. My big concern now becomes, are they going to spend that down by buying up the guys that I still want to have? But so be it. Meanwhile, they can spend it by buying up Brian Abreu. Luis Garcia. I do need starting pitching. I don't think that is the starting pitcher I want. Yeah, just limited upside, a lot of risk. To be blunt, he wasn't even my radar. CJ Abrams is an intriguing option at middle infield. I like him as a player, and I think that there's a lot of fantasy formats where he's really useful. The on-base percentage was abysmal last year, even in what was a bit of a breakout year for him. And so I was really hoping that he'd be like an end game $2 guy, but I wasn't spending more than that on him. There's still too many middle infielders that I am intrigued by. Christian Javier, I traded for him last offseason and obviously did not get what I was hoping to get from him. I don't really have a good sense of whether or not he's going to be able to turn things around, but it's hard to just bail on him at this point. I cut him at $9 though because I just think he's not worth he's not worth it at that price. He was so bad last year. And so I was happy I tried to trade him in the offseason. Nobody wanted him. I would have loved to get him back for like $3 or $4, but I wasn't going beyond that. And that's fine. Ryan Mountcastle is a favorite of mine. Not a guy I'm going to bid on right now, but I think he's being undervalued a bit. If I needed first base, I'd be very happy to have him at like $5. So I think like Niv should be very happy with a $2 Mountcastle. I think he's a good productive hitter. Matt Chapman, like I said, I've sort of got what I need at third base. I'm also just Chapman is I think I believe he came up on the list of like the most valuable players who are to the surplus calculator remaining, but like I don't know. He's like he's not really adding much except for home runs. He only hit 17 home runs last year. He should have more this year. Like it's not that that's what he's capped at, but it's just not a super exciting profile. We don't know where he's going to be playing. I'm happy to stay away. Jordan Romano falls into that, I almost nominated him last time because he falls into that camp for me of like, oh, if he goes for $1, fine. But I'd rather have other people spend more on him if that's how it's going to play out. So just looking at my spreadsheet again, I'm still seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-ish outfielders, 7 maybe. Yeah, somewhere in that area that I'm intrigued by. And I'm still seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10-ish starters. So there's still guys out there I like. That tends to be how it goes late in the draft like this. Joey Ortiz. I am not a big Joey Ortiz fan. I'm sure he's getting some hype as the prospect in the Burns trade, but I don't know. I don't really see it. I got a question about what CJ Abrams went for. Abrams went for 7. I have no problem, by the way. I said I wasn't going to really go over like $2, $3, $4, something like that for Abrams. I have no problem with Abrams at 7. I get the upside. I think the upside's really interesting. I just think he's not really ideally suited for this format, even in his upside. And so I think the upside is probably not a $20 or $25 kind of guy. And so I'm just I'm happy to let him go at that price. Yuki Matsui. I have a hard time knowing what to expect from him, but he is a guy I could have seen myself nominating for $1, and if he slipped through, great. Instead, he slipped through for someone else. Sean Manaea, I know there's a handful of people out there who really think Manaea is like on the verge of a breakout. I just don't quite know that I buy it. He's on my list of guys that, for $1 or $2, I'd be happy to take a flyer on. And the reality is, if I'm happy to take a flyer on him for $1 or $2, somebody else paying $4 isn't some like crazy thing. So I'm good with that. Question about the format. This is a 4x4 league. For those not familiar with Ottoneu 4x4, 4x4 is on base, slugging, home runs, and runs scored for hitters. And it's ERA, whip, strikeouts, and home runs per 9 for for pitchers, not starting pitchers, for any pitcher. Speaking of pitchers, Forrest Whitley, another guy not really on my radar anymore, but there is some upside there. So sure, why not? Oh, and I get to nominate again. I think I'm going to stick with this plan of throwing out relievers that I am happy to have for $1, but don't care if somebody else outbids me. But I've got to do it fast. So we'll go with Robert Stevenson. I slightly regret that one because I think I would have liked to have Stevenson for $1 later in the draft rather than letting someone else take him for 3 or 4 now. But yeah, $3 for Robert Stevenson I think is perfectly reasonable. No issue with that. Yeah, I got another comment in here from someone saying they're a Fangraph points guy, but need to try 4x4. I agree. I think 4x4 is, I think it's the best format. It's certainly my favorite format. Jason Adam. I almost nominated Jason Adam 30 seconds ago. I kind of wish I had, but that's okay. But yeah, 4x4, I think, I've gone through, as we do in all things in life, right? I've gone through phases. And when I started playing fantasy, I played 5x5 because that was all that I really knew existed. And then part of what happened with the formation of Ottoneu 20 years ago was, reading Moneyball and realizing that like, oh, we're sort of valuing the wrong things. Like, why are we doing that in fantasy when, I don't know, let's like rethink how this should work. And then I went through 4x4 was sort of the first format that was created, and that's why the original league plays in 4x4. And then points leagues came out, and I was like, oh, this makes sense because when you value a player, the reality is like you don't need to build a major league team by figuring out who is going to help you with on base percentage and who's going to help you with power and who's going to help you with pitching. Like you could just build, like theoretically, you could build a team that scores 20 runs a game and your pitching could be terrible and you're going to win. So I like that points element. What I've come back to over time is that Roto adds an element of balance and strategy that I think is just whether or not it better replicates real team building, which I don't think it does. I think it's more fun and more interesting. It creates more trade opportunities. I just like it better. So yeah, Nate Eovaldi, as I've said multiple times, I need pitching. I don't know. The home run per 9 was pretty good last year. It historically has not been. I don't really buy that he'll be able to keep it down. The strikeouts weren't very good last year. I don't know. I probably should have been on Eovaldi. Justin Turner. This dude just keeps hitting. I don't know how else to say it. Like, he seems forever old, but he put up another good year last year. I think Toronto will be a good spot for him. I think the question for me is this where I want to spend my last sort of big splash for a bat? Because I'm not going to be able to go Well, I don't know. Maybe it is. He fits a lot of spots. He would allow me to move some guys around to the outfield. But the price is getting high. I'm out on him here. I was looking at my sheet and going like, okay, well, maybe I could go to 6, 7, 8, maybe 9. He's 11. I'm not bidding 12. That's okay. I think the reality is what I'm going to end up spending here down the stretch is trying to grab some of the pitchers I like and then piece together the offensive depth. But I think that's fine. I'm also starting to look more at prospects. There was a question earlier about prospects, and like I'm not really targeting prospects, but I am starting to poke around at like, okay, who are the interesting prospects? If I do end up having spots open that I need to fill with someone, who would those guys be? I think like looking at the free agents who are out there, Adele Amador, Matt Shaw, Jet Williams, Tamar Johnson, Josue De Paula, Marcy, Justin Henry Malloy, maybe. And then there's a handful of pitchers that fit the bill for me as well. Ooh, Severino. I had Severino as a guy that I would really like to have for like $3. He's up to 5 very quickly. He got nominated at 3. Yeah. Joe asking in the questions if I was like looking at Kirkering and then decided not to nominate him. And yeah, I'm waiting on him because I think if he slips around till later in the draft, he is the kind of guy I would like to grab for $1 rather than have someone else pay for him. So we'll see if that happens. I got a couple of those guys in my back pocket. Ryan McMahon, not one of the middle infielders I want, mostly because at this point, I ideally want to find guys at this point in the draft who I'm pretty confident will either A, be for sure starters when I want to use them, or are available to me as backups any day I need them. And McMahon, I'm not sure, even at home, I'm always going to start him at middle infield. And if I need him and they're on the road, then I'm not going to use him at all. So, yeah, he just wasn't the guy I was going to target. Got a comment from Mylan Capital in the chat saying that last year was his or her their first Ottoneu League, and it was the best fantasy sports experience I've ever had. Yeah, agreed. It's great. For anyone who's out there watching or listening who hasn't played, you should. It's fantastic. Sedano Rafaela was on my watch list because he is a prospect I like a lot, but not where I want to spend meaningful cash right now. So this is an interesting situation looking around here because there are still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams with $40 plus left, which means You got to be careful about who you think you're targeting now, because anybody you think you're targeting now, if somebody else is targeting them too, there's a good possibility the other team targeting them has the money to push you around a little bit. Walcott, a good prospect, a lot of upside, has barely touched high A. He's just too far off for me. John Means. I know that there are people out there who really like John Means, really think John Means is a good pitcher, and he just needs to stay healthy and have things break his way. I'm not going to be the one who takes that chance. Robbie Ray, speaking of injured pitchers again, meh. I think there's a decent chance he comes back and pitches well, but the thing to remember with Ray is, yes, he had that Cy Young season. He was incredible. He wasn't bad. Like, I think people overrate or underrate how he pitched his one healthy year in Seattle. He wasn't bad at all, but he just wasn't as good as people want him to be. And I'm happy to let him go. Bassett, another pitcher I've always been lower than most on. And then last year, the home run per fly ball rate really spiked. And so, as part of that was the ground ball rate came down 2. That didn't help. Home run per 9. The underlying numbers were worse than the performance looked on the surface. Like 3.60 ERA is great. FIP 4.28, XFIP 4.21, Sierra 4.25. I'm like I said, I was never super high on him, and he's a guy that I've had on my list this year. Is like, okay, if the prices are right, but like, I'm not going to pay full price for him. And this is basically, that's what this is. This is paying full price for him. The reality is the pitchers I end up with are probably going to be riskier than Bassett, right? Bassett, at least, like, you know what you're going to get out of him, at least at some level, right? He's thrown, let's see, he threw 63 innings in the 2020 season that was shortened, but then 157, 181, 200 the last 3 years. Like, there are good reasons to go. Okay, hopefully my mic is working again. It seems to be. Jojo Romero, another reliever that, hey. I mentioned at the beginning that I was having some mic issues. Those seem to be creeping up. So Hicks's name came up as like one of the top values on the surplus calculator. I don't even know. Like, the Giants say they're going to use him as a starter. I don't believe he can hold up as a starter. I don't think he's that valuable as a reliever. And so I'm just staying away. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Hopefully my mic is working. It's been funky, but I think it looks like it's working again. Goodness, we're like 2 hours into this stream. Oh, I'm starting to run out of, like, guys I want to nominate now because I'm still in the situation where I'm looking at names I could nominate, and I think that there's too much money out there. Like, I think I'm gonna lose guys I want if I nominate them, but I don't wanna nominate someone I don't want and be stuck. Brandon Woodruff. I think Woodruff might be done. I hate to say it, but I'm it's been a long string of injuries. Like, he threw 153 innings in 2022 because he wasn't fully healthy. He only threw 67 innings last year. He's going to miss most of this year. He is 31 years old, which is not crazy, but yeah. Yeah, it's just not a guy I want to be involved on. That's it with Woodruff. He's just not a guy I want to be involved on. How are we doing here? Stroman, another guy who's like he's probably oh, just another guy who's probably a better pitcher than I give credit for, but I'm just not a huge fan. So yeah, we'll see. Yeah. Happy, happy to let him go for $4, although I think that's probably a pretty good price for the gerbils. Ty France, interesting choice here. I think there's better first base options out there than France. Henry Davis. I really like Henry Davis. I'm very intrigued by the bat. I like the catcher outfield eligibility. I like the fact that there's a good chance he's going to be catcher this year, maintain that eligibility, but play close to every day by getting time in other spots. Um, I like him. I don't need a third catcher, and I think that he's more projection than production at this point. So he's more like a guy I wanted like a $3 to $5, maybe $6 range to see what happens. He's not a guy I'm willing to bid $9 on to be uh, at a spot I don't really need him. Basically, a little run of catchers here. Camposano is sort of the I don't know. He was better last year than I'm giving him credit for. I've been low on him. I'm not sure I totally believe in his bat, but uh, he was good. So maybe I should believe in his bat. At least should believe in it more than I do. Huh. I'm up to make a pick in a dynasty draft. That's gonna have to wait. Let's see. Campusano for $9. High price. Paxton, on the one hand, the Dodgers want him. On the other hand, he's already hurt and he's always hurt. I probably should have bid $2, but I'm okay letting him go. There's other guys, like I said, that I'm more interested in targeting. Kevin Alcantara is a prospect who is on my list, but sort of far down it, which may be unfair. He's a pretty good player. He's really barely tasted the high minors, and so I don't think he's up this year. And my personal take on prospects is I either want them up this year or, looking like potential top 10 overall kind of guys, and I just don't think that's what he is. TJ LeMahieu. Like I said, I could use a guy who does like second, third. I don't know. He hasn't had a slugging over 400, over 390 really for like 3 years. His on base percentage has been heading the wrong direction. Nah, not for me. Sean Armstrong, another one of the relievers that, like, had I nominated him for a buck, I would have been happy to nominate him for a buck, but I'm not going to go to 2, let alone 4. Jake Fraley. Getting down into the remaining outfielders. He's a pretty solid option. And he's definitely on my list of guys that I'm intrigued on as one of those extra bats at the end of my roster. So we're just going to see what the bidding looks like. But I think I'm going to pass at this price. I probably should have bid, but I'm not going to. Oh, goodness. I got to look at who I'm nominating again. It's Tim Meza. Another one of those like, hey, I need relievers. I'll take him for a buck. But I don't care if I don't get him types. So let's see where he lands. Oh, there we go. Gratterall, another guy. I could have nominated him for a buck and seen what happened, but he actually I like guys with more strikeouts than he brings, and so he's not actually a super primary target for me, anyways. Getting a little distracted because I'm trying to clean up my spreadsheet a bit. Sort of enjoying just sitting out right now. At some point, I'm going to have to start bidding again, but I don't feel like I'm missing out right now. Lance McCullers, if he were healthy. I just don't know if he's ever going to be healthy again. I'm also, I think, running out of steam on this stream. See how much longer I can make it. Suarez is a guy who is far down my list, but on my list of theoretical third base options, but not a guy I was really targeting. We'll say there are maybe just one. There may be just one, but I think there's at least one guy out there who I would have taken over him if I needed another third baseman. But I don't. So the other guy, by the way, is Elohuris Montero, who I think is a talented hitter who puts up some really nice numbers at Coors and probably will never be very good away from Coors, but I would grab him and use him half the time. One of the nice things about Candelario being the other guy I've got is I could have slotted in Elohuris Montero every time he was at Coors and then just used Candelario the rest of the time. But I'm happy having spent what I spent on Hayes instead. Giolito, I was intrigued when Cleveland picked him up last year. Like, oh, maybe they can figure something out with him. No, they did not. He was bad with the White Sox. Actually, wasn't. That's not even true. He was fine with the White Sox. He just fell apart after that. It was truly, truly terrible. But it's worth noting, like, he wasn't very good with the White Sox, despite that 3.79 ERA. The underlying performance just doesn't match that. So I'm getting a question now. Who are some likely $1 starting pitchers you're excited about? I got no idea. We're going to see what happens. Looking at my list right now, like, it's hard for me to tell who's going to go for a buck. Guys that could, like Griffin Canning, Frankie Montas, Tanner Houck, Chris Paddock, Aaron Ashby. I think those are sort of the guys that are most interesting to me. I also think, like, I'm not ready to completely give up on like Ken Waldichuk or Hayden Wesneski. Cutter Crawford, if I thought there was any chance he'd go for a buck, would have been on that list. I really like Cutter Crawford. How much, though? So last year's leftovers doesn't really have a ton of cash left. They have enough to keep bidding, but bidding against them feels a lot better than bidding against like the Chandelorian or someone like that. And if this is where this is going to end, I feel good about a $6 cutter. I mean, Crawford last year just over a 4.0 ERA, more strikeouts than innings pitched. His FIP and Sierra were both under 4. He needs to try to get more ground balls, ideally, but he gets good strikeouts and limits the walks, and that's a pretty good place to be. And I know, like, there are a handful of analysts out there who are very high on him that I trust. And so, yeah. And by the way, part of the reason I sort of laughed at the $1 starting pitcher question was like, Eric Fetty is a $1 starting pitcher I'm sort of excited about. He's going for $7 right now. We'll see if he goes higher than that. But like, I would have been excited to have him for $1. I would not have been excited to have him for $2. Jeff McNeil. Man, I used to love Jeff McNeil, but that was like 5 years ago. What I will say is I'm now at a point where I have 8 spots left, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 players highlighted on my spreadsheet. And that doesn't include any relief pitchers because I never highlight relief pitchers. So there's still a lot of guys out there that I'm intrigued by. And as this thing moves on, I can talk more about those players. Kyle Hendricks is not one of them. Those players, by the way, if you care, are Bryson Stott, Jonathan Aranda, Brian De La Cruz, Parker Meadows, Luis Matos, Jacob Marcy, Drew Thorpe, Griffin Canning, Trevor Rogers, Paddock, Houck, Montas, Ashby, and Kikuchi. So that is the list of guys that I still have highlighted. If I decide to highlight some relievers, Brock Stewart, Orion Kirkering would both be on there. I'm not really sure who else. Andrew Nardi, maybe. Harold Ramirez was not one of the guys I just mentioned. And in general, there might be someone who comes up who I'm like, oh, yeah, he should be on my list. I should add him highlighted. But for the most part, the guys who I didn't have highlighted who I might end up with will be prospects. And I'm like, oh, okay, that guy. Goodness. Let's go with, I'm going to shift strategies right now. And instead of nominating a reliever, I'm going to go with an outfielder who I like, who we'll see if anyone else likes him. Someone else liked him, but maybe not very much. I think Meadows, I wish he weren't in Detroit because it's just not a great park for hitters, but he looks to me like a guy who should be able to offer decent on base and power, but not great necessarily at either, but good at both. And that's a useful thing to have. You know, his projection is not a particularly great one, right? I mean, the Bat X, which is maybe my favorite of the projections, is 291, on base, 375 slugging. ATC 301 on base, 381 slugging. But he hasn't really had huge strikeout issues. He was walked at a high rate. I like what I see there. So, yeah. Julian Merriweather, he could have been on my list of $1 relievers, but I don't mind that he's not. Tony Gonsolin was not a guy I was really looking at. I'm down to needing 7 more players. Still have $21. At this point, even if I get 7 guys for $1 and leave with $14, I'm fine with that. So I feel if I end up spending more, I spend more. That's great. Ezekiel Duran. I'm just not a huge fan of Duran. I know some people are. I know some people are really intrigued by what he can do. I just don't buy it. The strikeout rate's pretty high. The walk rate's pretty low. His numbers last year were good, but it was with a 358 BABIP. I'm just not a believer. Trevor Rogers. Now, here is another pitcher I like. Obviously, he's got to stay healthy. Like, it's been ugly, but the talent is undeniable. I don't know if I'm going to keep going here, but yeah, why not? Let's go one more dollar. I won't go to 11, so if I get outbid at 10, I'll be done. But he's healthy right now. I think the Marlins are going to be careful with him in a good way. Yeah. He was a guy I had targeted early on, and I feel pretty good about that. His projections make that look good, look a good price. Now, who knows if that's how it'll actually play out, but at least for now, that's what I'm going with. Oh, goodness. John Birdie is up. I don't think John Birdie's very good. We have our first team that finished up. The Disgusting Brothers finished when they picked up Ezekiel Duran right before I got Rogers. So we're down to 11 teams still drafting. Hopefully, we're going to move kind of quick here. Alan. So I did mention Brian De La Cruz was on my list of guys I'm still interested in. Given where I am financially, I don't think I'm going to go after him. Not that I think this is a bad price on him. I think it's perfectly fine, but Trent Grisham. I said earlier that I thought he should be starting over Verdugo. That doesn't mean I'm going to spend $2 on him. Dalton Varsho. Varsho was really bad last year. I don't think he's as bad as he was last year. I also don't think like Surplus Calculator has him at $12 or something like that. And I don't think he's that either. Depth Charts is by far the highest projection on him because Zips and Steamer are both high on him. And I just think I'm happy to let him go. He's also a low OBP guy. So, yeah. And he is no longer a catcher, which hurts. Loaizaga, not one of the guys that I would have wanted to pick up, so I'm fine with him going away. Canning I like, and looking at who's left, I think I can go to a couple bucks for him. I probably can't go to 4. Another guy who, like a lot of analysts I read, like him, and so I'm intrigued. And I don't know. I maybe could have gone to 4 on him, but I'm fine not. Yastrzemski. I don't think he's the bat I want at this point. I have now 8 outfielders. That's 10 if you include Spear and Donovan, and so I have some flexibility. Oh, I have to nominate someone now. How about that? Uh, let's go with nominate Yusei Kikuchi. I maybe should have nominated Kikuchi at 2 just to avoid having to go to 3, but I will go to 3. He was good last year. He gives up more home runs than I'd like, and so I'm not willing to go to 4 on him. I'm happy to stay at 3, and it looks like that's not going to be enough. But he was better than like he bounced back. He pitched well. He's a fun end game guy. None of the $1 guys I was excited about are going to be $1 though. Taylor Rogers is a much less exciting Rogers than Trevor. That's my analysis on Taylor Rogers. I have to imagine there's just thousands of people watching to hear me say things like Taylor Rogers isn't exciting as Trevor Rogers. We're really at that point in the draft, folks. Alek Manoah, I think, is a good $1 pickup. I don't want to spend more than that on him, but fine, go for it. See if he's got it back because the upside is huge if he does. Justin Henry Malloy, I mentioned, is one of the prospects I might be interested in. I'm not willing to take that bet right now. I think there's some risk that he's not up longer than we hope or expect. And there's just other guys that I think I'm more interested in at the moment. The other thing with my team right now as I look at this is, well, I feel like I said I have 8 outfielders. That doesn't include Langford, who could be up very early. And all right. Sorry, I lost the mic again for a second. I mentioned that I have I think I said I have 8 starting pitchers. That doesn't include Ricky Tiedemann, who I think is not to break camp or be up early as well. So I'm a little bit deeper than it sounds because I'm ignoring a couple of prospects who are maybe not totally the radar. Alec Thomas, a guy I've liked for a long time, but I think his value sort of dried up. Roman Anthony, a guy that I like as well, but I don't think he's going to be up this year. He does start to verge into the could be a top 10 prospect at some point tier where I'm like, okay, even if he's not up this year, I'm sort of intrigued, but not $5 intrigued. I will say right now, this is a draft where I kind of wish everybody had fewer spots left than me because I would let them go and then take it from there. Because there's a bunch of guys I'd be happy to pick up for $1. Gabriel Arias, I don't think he's very good. I wish he was. Sorry. Oh, I totally missed Joe Kelly. That was weird. But you know me, I'm not all that excited about any relievers. So, who's this? Bryson Stott, I am somewhat intrigued by. I think he's a good player. I wish he still had shortstop eligibility, but this is more a question of, do I think he has another gear? And do I want to bid $4 to find out? I think the answer is no. There's another guy I'd rather spend that $4 on. So we're going to wait and we're going to see, and I may regret that decision, but there is another guy out there that I would rather pick up to fill that spot. Josh Bell. Bell is going to go really cheap here and be one of the better pickups in the draft. That was a good buy. Good work, Dustin. This is the guy that I said I was going to go after because I didn't get Stott. Not a good sign that somebody else nominated him right now. But we'll see. I think the way the Rays are treating Aranda suggests they are very high on him. I don't want to have to go to $6 though, so I hope this is good enough. I have a handful of Jonathan Arandas on teams, so I hope he does well. Come on, why is this not? All right, going after Snelling, prospect I like. We'll see if he slips through for $1. I hope he does. I'm a little surprised he's going to, but that's good. So Snelling immediately becomes trade bait for me. Not totally ideal situation. I sort of thought somebody would go to $2 on him, but I'm very happy to have him. He's a great value at $1. Somebody should have gone to 2, but I now have 4 spots left. I really need at least 1 or 2 more starting pitchers, and I need to build an entire bullpen. So I got some things to figure out. That I'll have to figure out after the draft, which is fine. Roansy Contreras, a guy I used to be pretty high on, but has really fallen off. So now I think I have to figure out who are the starting pitchers I want to just go pick up. And the relievers for that matter. Tyler Stevenson. That's a good buy low, I think. I'm not sure he's going to be good, but I like taking that shot. Joey Meneses, I think, is a less good buy low. I'm just not that much of a believer. Jeremy Pena, I really had high hopes for him. He's a better real life player than he is a fantasy player, even in this format. Luciano's sort of off my radar at this point. Not often in terms of like I'm not aware of him, but just not a guy I'm super excited about. Still have a lot of players left to pick up here for being almost 3 hours into this, 2 hours and 50 minutes in to the draft. Oh, no, sorry, 2.5 hours into the draft. Oh, we're not as far behind as I thought. Gabe Spear, another one of the guys I could have easily put up for $1 and didn't. Ryan O'Hearn, not a guy I'm a huge fan of. It's not that he's, bad per se. He had a very good year last year, but the track record isn't super exciting. He turned 30 last season. It is possible it was just a pure age 30 breakout, but his walk rate was down. His strikeout rate was down a little bit, but not very much. There was a lot of BABIP luck, a big jump in his home run per fly ball rate that I don't think is super sustainable. I don't know. Eloharis Montero, I mentioned before, I like him, but I'm basically looking at 4 spots left, and they'll probably all be pitchers at this point. It's possible I'll grab a hitter, but I doubt it. And Montero is, he's just sort of a fun $1 dude. Oh, man, I should nominate again in a second. Eric Swanson. He's a fine reliever. All right. Well, that's unfortunate. I was just looking at a reliever I thought I might go after. Gregory Santos, and it sounds like he cropped up with a little injury. So we're going to pass on him and see if we can get Brock Stewart instead. Nope, we can't. Might have been a little early to put Stewart out there, I guess, but at this point, I don't really have a lot of choices. I just got to put guys out there and see how they fall. Traded not a reliever that was really a guy I would be targeting right now. Ashby, I really like. He's been on my list. At this point, I want guys who I'm more confident are going to be throwing innings this year, and Ashby is not set to be in the rotation, so I'll let him go. Kirk is a name I almost threw out earlier as a catcher to pull some money out, but his year last year is really bad, and so there's always a risk that he'd go for a buck, and I'd be stuck with him. And I don't think he's a bad buy for a buck. I think if you need a catcher, he's a good pickup for $1 because there's a lot of upside in that bat. But I didn't want him using up a roster spot. Paddock is definitely a guy I would have nominated at some point soon, but that's fine. Starling Marte, like I said, I'm not really going after outfielders, but even if I were, I don't think Marte is a great pickup in this format. I don't know that I know very much about Sterling Thompson. That's a pretty weak analysis, but he's not a guy I'm super familiar with, so I'm gonna have to spend some time figuring out what's up with him. Kimbrel, he's a guy who just has more value in other formats where saves matter because I think he's going to get saves. But I don't want to pay for him here. Garrett Whitlock, I think it looks like he's going to be a reliever. Another guy I was super high on. I'm a little worried that he's competing for a spot in the rotation because I think there's a good chance he doesn't win one and then is sort of stuck in no man's land. Fernando Cruz, huh? He was pretty good last year. High ERA, a lot of strikeouts, decent home run per 9. Yeah. Okay. Ooh, my turn. Let's go with this guy. Whoops. So a little bit of a risky play, I think. He only made 7 major league appearances last year. But he looked very good in the minors and in his brief time with the Cubs. And again, because of the format, I don't care sort of what his role is. Now, there's risk he's not in the pen. I think that's probably, if he's not up, then I've got a problem and I'll have to move on from him. But I think there's enough upside to take the shot. He should be in the pen. He's one of their better relievers, I believe. So Emmett Sheehan, I know we want to talk about the Dodgers being this great development team. And yet a lot of their success has been finding guys outside their org, either by just having the money to go get them, or by trading away prospects that they got credit for developing that turned out not to be good, which is more that's the Betts thing versus, paying for Freddie Freeman or Otani. They've developed some guys like Muncy, but that was a long time ago. Taylor, but that was a while ago. By pulling them from other orgs and helping them improve. I just don't know that they're as good a development org as we want to believe they are. And so I'm not that high. I think to me, the case for Emmett Sheehan is mostly the Dodgers. And I don't think that's that good a case. Smith Shawver, on the other hand, I like Atlanta's development. I just want guys, like I said, right now I'm looking for guys who are going to help me right now. Samuel Basallo, especially with the injury, I think is unlikely to be up this year, but he does fit that, he might not be up this year, but he could be a top 10 prospect in the game. And so, sure, why not? Just added a few more names to my watch list, so I'm ready when the time comes. Gregory Santos is the guy I didn't nominate before because I'm a little worried about the fact that he ended last season hurt. He's already hurt with a new injury now. I just don't want injured relievers. And so I'm willing to let him go. Although I think if he's healthy, he'll be very good. Got 3 spots left for my team. Olivares, another outfielder I was sort of half eyeing at different times, but Jeff Hoffman, not somebody I was eyeing. I wonder if maybe I should have been. Yeah, he was good last year. How about that? I missed how good he was. He might be a target for other drafts. Yoan Moncada scraping the bottom of the barrel at third base now. But nobody's really bidding right now, so guys are just flying through. Which means I got to be thoughtful about who I want those last 3 on my roster to be. Renfroe, I think, is not a bad buy low just to see if he bounces back. Kansas City is not an ideal place for him to be, but he's got good power. I wish I knew where Brandon Belt was playing. Somebody should sign Brandon Belt, even if you just sign him to be a platoon guy. The dude can still hit. Oh, I'm up. All right. So I said I was going to have to be smart about who I still wanted to go get. Going after, this is a little bit of trust in the Rays, plus, the big risk with the Rays is always they don't leave their guys in very long. They don't get a lot of innings, which means it's hard to get quality starts. It's hard to get wins. 4x4, I don't care. If he is going 4 or 5 innings every time out and pitching well, that will work just fine for me. Plus, now I've picked up Little and Little with my last 2 picks, which, hey, that's fun, right? 2 more guys to go. This won't be one of them. I'm just not a believer in Kopech at this point. I get the talent. I get what he's theoretically capable of. He shows no signs that he's going to be able to do it. Justin Foscue. If I didn't get Aranda, I might have considered Foscue instead, but I like Aranda a lot better. If anyone has any questions as we're winding this down, let me know. Sam Henches is another reliever I would have strongly considered for $1 because that's all I do with relievers is consider them for $1. Brady House would have been on my list of potential prospect additions. I know he doesn't quite fit what I was saying I look for, but I really, really like the upside, and I think he could move quickly. Matt Shaw was definitely on my list of prospects I would have looked at. I don't know about his ETA just because I'm not sure. Like he did well in AA, but he still has more to prove there, I think, before he gets to AAA, and there's not an obvious immediate spot for him. So I think he's probably a 2025 guy. And I don't think he's a top 10 in baseball going into 2025 guy. So I would stay away, but he's interesting to me for sure. Bryce Elder, not a guy I'm super excited about. Seems silly saying that at some point because it's like, who are we super excited about at this point? If we were super excited about them, they would have been drafted a long time ago. But yeah. Not a big Matt Strom fan. I think I could have seen going after him, but meh. Charlie Blackmon was better last year than I think people realize. And I think if you can platoon him, if you've got the depth to use him as an outfielder just at home, I think he can actually be pretty useful for you. So whoever ends up with him here, if it's Dustin, I think that I like that play for him. Ooh, my turn. I really want like one more starter, one more reliever. So who do I nominate first? Let's go with this guy. Montas is a guy that I have been very, very high on at different points in his career. Obviously, he is at a low point right now. I am super, super happy to buy in for $1. I don't love that he's in Great American Ballpark, but if he's healthy and that sinker is working or that splitter is working, like it won't matter. So yeah. Now I want one more reliever with that last spot. That's going to leave me with just 3 relievers. So I'm going to have to do something about that. But I have a month to do it, so we'll get that figured out. But otherwise, I feel pretty good about the shape of this team. So, and I have no big regrets from this auction at all, especially given it's not like I'm leaving money on the table where I could have gotten someone without giving up someone else. Phil Maton. Other than the fact that he's just bounced around between really smart organizations and pitched decently well every step of the way, not a guy I was really focused on, but he probably should be picked up more places than he is, to be honest. Yimi Garcia. I like the talent. It just hasn't really come together. Like 2022, the rates were pretty good, but the strikeouts weren't there. 2023, the strikeouts were there, but the rates weren't very good. And I'm happy to let someone else pick him up. Getting towards the end here. Nick Senzel. Sure. Let's see what he can do. It's probably not much, but looks like he's going to get a shot. So, yeah. Drew Thorpe, very much on my list because I think he will get innings this year. I worry that like the velocity is not great, and you can say the results are good, but that doesn't always translate well. And so you're taking a lot of risk with him, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 7 teams that are done, and I'm about to nominate. So if nobody outbids me for what'll be my final reliever of the day, we'll have 8 teams done as well. Hopefully these last few will go quick. But Thorpe is still going, so we'll have to see. $7 Thorpe, by the way. I was saying like that's a lot for Thorpe. That's not what I had in mind when I was like, oh, he's a guy I could target. And we mentioned Kerkering earlier. I like Kerkering. If he is my last reliever for $1, he put up good numbers in the minors. He put up good numbers in the majors. Oh, he went to $2. I'm not bidding 3. I wasn't going to bid 2. That's fine. There's other guys out there that I still like. But I did sort of hoping I'd be done. Termarr Johnson, definitely on my prospect list. I think the guy is super talented, even though he's not quite there yet. So Pete reached out to me about this dynasty draft that we're doing, that we are on the clock. And I guess I need to figure out what I want to do. Let's see, Sugarman. Waiting on this guy, the Hoofnagels, to make one last nomination. He should be done after this. So we'll see if he does that. Clark Schmidt, not the guy I would have cared about. Amador is one of my favorite prospects. I think what the Rockies did with Tovar moving him quickly suggests they might move quickly here as well. So I like that move for Dave Stewart. And now maybe this will be my last reliever. Yep, Moreta, my last guy, so that's good. DePaula, fun, far away, I think. I'm going to try to stick with you guys through the end here. There's only a few picks left. Looks like we're down to just one team drafting, and he's taking his time. We may be about ready to finish this up. All right. Looks like Colt Emerson is going to be the last guy. I like Emerson. He's a good prospect. He's another guy like Dynasty Leagues. Way more interested than Ottoneu just because he's not super close, but that's okay. And I think we are calling it in this draft. So that's it. Thank you all for listening. Yeah, I can't believe if you're still here, I can't believe you stuck with me. Going to be recording Keeper Cut in about 12 hours. So we'll have a new episode for you Monday right here at our Twitter feed. We'll post that for you. But yeah, thanks. And we'll talk to you soon.